Welcome to Hanging Out with Robert, that's me. This video contains things that I encounter throughout the day. If for some reason I complete a task and you would like to see the details, you can click on the link in the description area below. This video also contains tips and tricks that I learned throughout the years. I plan on leaving this video accessible for about 30 days. After that, you can view it through my Patreon account. Thank you very much for watching. Here we go, folks. The final frontier on getting this suspension done. Man, if I don't get this done today, I think I'm gonna shave my head. Never had a shaved head before, so I better get at this before midnight. It is 1:38, 82 degrees, overcast, so it don't feel bad. So let me get Queen Bee out of the way, unload this vehicle, and get this fuel tank secured, and go from there. Put some heat on that. Vice grips screw came right out. Now that thing looks like it needs to be painted. I might go in there and grab some paint that thing. Thing's been heated up so bad, all the paint's wore off of it. Kicking off the day, checking my nut. It looks like it is nice and secure. Put my finger in there, didn't budge at all. Now I had a couple of viewers recommend that I go from the top and come down on it, so drill a hole through the top. Man, that thing is just forward of the fuel panel access. I bet you Volvo already put a plug over there. I'm gonna reach in there and see. Look like I got some spider webs back here already in one day. I thought I burnt all that away, so I must have missed the spider that was creating those. Let me put some fire under here, kill these spiders. Could not find my piece that goes on the back of this. That bolt right there. Remember, this other one was rusted out. Went to reach in my overhead bin to grab this one. Gone. Might have lost it in Chicago. Got that bolt up. However, it did not get tight. It got snug. So I may end up drilling in from the top, putting a hole up there, putting a wrench on the top of that, and getting that bolt tight, because it's snugged up but it didn't get tight. So I got these wires up here. Let me go ahead and secure them, and then I'm gonna raise this suspension up and hang them on these studs with some grease on them so they don't rust, and then I'm gonna bolt those in. Then I'll work on the back of it. Before I do that, I'm gonna replace this clamp right here. So let me grab this clamp and replace this. 2 10mm bolts. I've seen so many of those things rusted out that I collect those things now. So the fuel tube runs into the tank. It's got a gasket in there, and this clamps it all together. I probably should take this caliper loose from it. That's extra weight on it, but that shouldn't bother it, because the tube goes into the fuel tank probably about 6 inches or so. Let me go ahead and swap this out. That's how it look with the clamp off. I don't have a lot of gas in here, so this shouldn't leak. I recommend you do this with very little gas in the tank. Let me get the other one on. At the clamp in position. I'll check it for leaks when I fill up. I'll grab some paint, brush that off, paint that. Then I'm gonna put some grease in here and hang these things real quick. Hit that with some Rust-Oleum, put some grease in there on both sides. I'm gonna go ahead and get this jack in place and get this thing popped in up here. I got all 4 bolts started on this side, went over the other side, got all 4 bolts started over there, put that 10mm over there for that hard brake line. Then I came over here, torqued this up first so I know that piece sat in the bushing, and then I torqued these other 3 17s. Now I'm gonna go over the other side and do the same thing. These 3 bolts here, 1 2 3 48 foot-pounds plus 60 degrees. This big bolt here, 77 foot-pounds and 90 degrees. There's tips on how to do angle torque in the comments below. I took this bolt that had rust on it out and put a clean one in there. Secured that brake line bracket. I actually took a long pin and an extension and reached in this way to tighten that thing up there. Now I got these started. I'm gonna get this one tight first after I make sure that bracket sits in that bushing right. I got these secure and torqued down. Next I'm going to secure those brackets back on top of the rear suspension that hold the brake lines and the ABS wires. Got that secured there, one screw and a post. Got that secured up there, a screw and a little post holding. Got the wire clipped and a few clips. Next I'm going to install the springs and then install the shocks. Spring in place, the seat in place. Now I'm gonna get the other side in place. Then I'm gonna put the floor jack under it, jack it up a little bit, secure the springs and hook these shocks on the studs, being careful not to break them. I had about a 10-minute warning, but we had a cloud burst. Rained on everything I own, including running water under the car, so I got nice and wet. But I did get my springs in and my shocks in place. So now I'm gonna try to put some bolts on there because I can't find the bolts that belong on there. I thought it quit raining, but it didn't. It picked right back up. So I'm gonna stop. Whatever's wet ain't gonna get no wetter. And I'll wait till it quit raining for about 30 minutes to an hour. Then I'll come finish up. Another joy of being a shade tree mechanic. If you don't like working in the rain, you'll have to stop. It's been an hour. Not sure if it's done raining or not. It don't look like it is. But I need to keep trying to get this done. I'm looking for the nut and washer that goes on these studs that holds the shocks on. I can't find the washers. I seen them earlier. I don't know where they are now. So I got to keep looking. Got the bolt on both sides. 59 foot-pounds. So the rear suspension is hung. Ready to rock and roll. Now I got to do the parking brake. And then I got to bleed these calipers because I broke those lines loose there. Leaked a bunch of fluid out. I got to fill up the reservoir. Bleed these calipers. Emergency brake cables are first. Here's the new cable versus the cable that I pulled out of the car. The original, I guess the original cables. You go in and out. That's the grommet that goes through the floor. A little bit different. Yeah, this says Volvo on it. So you got to slide that into position. Has a little sleeve here, not as thick as the one Volvo has. Has that collar there that holds it in position. The Volvo one, I don't know if that used to, yeah, that moves a little bit. And down here, people got to be careful that they push this all the way in until it really pops in place, because there's a little rubber gasket on there that seals it, stops water and stuff from getting in there. But people complain about aftermarket ones letting stuff in there. I don't think they put it in all the way. So let me go ahead and put the cable in place and hook up the parking brake parts. This little thing that rivets to the suspension is not on the cable, so you got to transfer that over, rivet that over there. When installing your cables, you really got to work those things in. Push them and wiggle them in until you don't see any gap where the cable goes into the knuckle of the rear end. I have the cable secured there. Couldn't find my rivets, so I put a screw in it there. Same kind of screw go in your glove box. I got that pushed in as tight as I could get it there. I'm gonna try to wiggle that in a little bit tighter there, just to make sure that thing's waterproof. I'm gonna tap it with a screwdriver. Kind of tap it in. I pulled the cable all the way out here, slid my dog leg on there. Now I'm gonna push the cable into the car and put the dog leg here the way it's supposed to go. And hook up my brake shoes. Have all of my brake shoe parts installed. Now let me get my rotor installed and adjust these shoes out until they grab my rotor, stop it from turning, and then I'll back it off 2 turns. Before I put this rotor on here, I'm gonna grease the contact points. I'm gonna put a grease around this edge here, and I'm gonna put a grease around this middle edge here so this stuff don't rust together and have a hard time getting it off later. And the couple of days this has been off, and with that rain, that stuff is rusty. So let me grease it up. Just don't put grease in the threads where your lug nuts go. I put the rotor to hub pin in there. That could just be a bolt. It don't have to be a pin like this that came on the 850s. The later cars just have a bolt there. It just holds the rotor in place while you do other things. Put the tires off and on. But let me go ahead and line this up and get this parking brake stuff set. It's already not even in here, so I'm gonna have to maybe put a wheel on there and work that around. I tighten this down till it can't move. Now I'm gonna loosen it up until it can. Maybe just 2 twists. Once it can move, that's gonna be the best place for it. Where I have it set at is barely rubbing. I can get it around with 2 hands, but not quite with 1. So if you can get it around with 2 hands, leave it there. Now I'm gonna go inside, route this cable, hook this one up to the handle, then I'm gonna go to the other side. So I gotta push this in here and put the grommet where it belongs. I could not get this cable hooked in there on this side. So I pulled the 3 12mm bolts out of the parking brake deal to get that in. So I left it undone, and I'm gonna get this side in, and then I'm gonna re-secure that to the floor. I loosened this bolt the whole way, still couldn't get that through there, so here I go. Now that both sides are in, I'm gonna bolt this back to the floor. Before I put the center console in, I could test my parking brake. I could put the tires on and crank this thing up, but even without the tires on, you can see how far your handle comes up, and adjust this T50 before you even put your center console in. I've adjusted it in some, and I pulled my cable all the way up and let it sit for a little while. Now I'm going to let it down, let it sit for 10 minutes, and I'm going to tighten mine so that this is even with my lever when my handle is pulled all the way up. So I'm gonna run this in until that matches that when I pull my handle all the way back. I got my hand brake pulled up pretty tight, as if I would stop the car from rolling backwards, and that's about even with my handle. So that's where I'm gonna adjust that. I'm gonna go ahead and let it down and work on getting my calipers put on and bled. Everything's together, just need to bleed them. Sad to say, I have no idea where my power bleeder is. I'm gonna look for that for about 10 minutes. If I don't find it, I'm pressing on. Took a little dinner break. Mosquitoes are out here trying to eat me up already. I've been out here like 3 seconds. Anyway, let me go ahead and bleed these calipers, put these wheels on, and put the inside together. After brakes bled, I'm gonna go ahead and put the tires on, and then I'm gonna put the inside together. Man, I thought that was a scratch. I was going to wipe it with my finger. Bird crap. Glad I didn't do that. Let me get these tires on. I'm gonna pull a parking brake, stop the rotors from turning while I put the wheels on. These Michelin Pilots are not directional. They're outside tires. You see it says outside right there. So as long as you mount this side out, you're good to go. So I got the tires in. Now I got to see how wet this stuff is. See if I'm going to put it in or put it somewhere to dry. And clean this out. put that panel back on. My carpeted pieces are too wet to put in the car, so I need to, oh man, find a wet vac somewhere, vacuum those, and then put them somewhere to dry with a fan on. I think I got a heater back here, but I don't want to put heat on them. I'm going to put them somewhere with a fan on them so they can dry in the basement. I'm going to get all this stuff out here, put the flooring back down, and see if my seats are dry enough to put back here, because my seats were getting wet and I took them and put them on the porch. Hopefully they're not soaked. We'll see here in a minute. And I'll put this trim back down here after I lay this carpet and stuff down. Well folks, I am technically done. The car is still on jack stands, and I got these panels wet that I need to dry. But technically I can clean up that mess right there, lower this car on the ground, fire it up and drive away. Everything's done. So I'm gonna wrap it up for tonight, and I'm gonna come out here and clean up this mess in the morning. Thanks for watching. If you feel that this information was useful, please like it and share it with your social media friends. You can subscribe to my channel so that you will get notifications of future videos that I post. You can follow me on Twitter, and if you need to contact me directly, please visit my website. And if you have any questions, leave them below, and someone or myself will reply to them. Again, thank you very much for watching.